Hey, they say patience is a virtue and good things come to those who wait. All right, virtuous subscribers, I know you've been waiting a month and this is going to be good. I'm Ken Pfalzgraf, member of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School Board, and this is my monthly update, this time March 2017. And I love March. Yeah, I love March, especially March 31st. Why? Because it's my birthday. Woo! And my wife made me my favorite kind of cake. Look at that. Alright, I had a great birthday. Those of you that sent me birthday wishes, presents, greetings, thank you all. Those of you that forgot, that's okay, because you gave me an early birthday present when you voted for me in November. What? You didn't vote for me in November and you didn't give me nothing for my birthday? Wow, dude. Go look at yourself in the mirror and see how you feel now. But anyway, don't you worry about it. I'll keep representing you, and then you can vote for me next time. That's right. You know what else I like about March? The cold is gone, the rain is gone, the mud is gone, and the dirt is gone, and suddenly you wake up one morning and it's 90 degrees. That's right. Take advantage of it. Go get that car washed. Yeah, that goofy car wash thing is a lead into something I've wanted to discuss with y'all for quite some time, and that's public sector contracting and purchasing. The first thing I want to talk about is the difference between private and public sector contracting and purchasing. In the private sector, I'm using my money. In the public sector, I'm using taxpayer money. And whenever taxpayer money is used, there's always a conspiracy theory. Oh, their friend got the contract, or oh, his brother-in-law got the job. Well, you know what? In my case, that's not true. Think about it. How many friends do you really think I have, right? And I'm so smart, I got divorced so my brother-in-law couldn't get the job. Okay, let's talk about private sector contracting. Let's say I decide I need my trees trimmed. I don't know anybody. I've just moved here. Nobody knows somebody that they can refer. So I look in the newspaper. Yeah, there's some tree trimmers right there. I call a few of them. They come out to my house. I got the lowest price. Good, right? Hey, maybe not. You know what? I don't know if the newspaper screens the contractors and only lets licensed contractors advertise. Unlicensed contractors may be more likely not to have liability insurance or workman's compensation insurance. And that can be scary, because if somebody you contract with doesn't have workman's compensation insurance and one of their workers gets hurt while working at your house, you become the contractor and you become responsible for their medical bills. And in tree trimming, tree trimmers usually don't get paper cuts. They get pretty serious stuff. But the bottom line, in private sector, I'm using my money. I can be smart, I can be frugal, I can be silly, I can do anything I want. It's my money. In the public sector, things are a little bit different. The administrators or the wards of the taxpayer dollars for the agency, they have some things that they have to have a grip on. First, there are fail-safes in order. For example, most agencies are self-insured, sometimes for $1 million, sometimes for $2 million. So therefore, if you're going to contract with the agency to supply a service, you are going to list that agency as additionally insured for amount they're self-insured to. That's a pretty typical fail-safe. Other examples are insurance, workman's compensation, vehicle coverage, errors and emissions insurance for consultants and engineers and people who are certificated professionally. Next, there's got to be equity in the bidding or purchasing system. That means if I'm going to release a request for proposals, meaning I want something built, or I want somebody to supply a network or software or something, there has to be a known mechanism by which we're going to buy this, the deliverables are this, the minimum product is this, the schedule is this, and that has to be defined for people who want to bid on the job. Finally, there's accountability. That means in agendas and in reporting and in the bid process. For example, in a bid process, it should say in the request for proposals how the bids are going to be screened. Are they going to be screened simply on the bidder's corporate capacity compared against low price? Are there any number of things? But there needs to be an accountability system that defines how the service or the purchase was made, what the decision-making process was. So as a board member, especially the clerk, what I look for in the agenda when someone has awarded a contract, I'm really wary if I see an agenda item that says award of contract for fence. What I want to see is I want to see the contract and purchase order and the amount of whatever the dollar amount is for fence awarded to the contractor who won, who was awarded the bid, and then I want to see a little staff report, and I'd like to know what the process was. I'm sure some of the public would like to know, and I'm sure some of the bidders who possibly didn't get the bid would like to know. Back when I used to sit out in the audience and watch the agenda, and it would say contract for fence, that used to drive me crazy. The agency I work for doesn't do things like that. Things are very transparent. So since I've been on the board, I've asked, and people have been responsive. Our new interim superintendent is pretty good about when the item comes up on the agenda to say, here is the contract, here's what it is, and then typically ask the director of operations and maintenance to stand up, and that individual will say, yeah, 3 people bid this, we had a bid walk, we received 2 bids or 5 bids, and this was the lowest responsible bidder, and the project starts here. And so that type of transparency goes a long way in public sector contracting and purchasing. So my hat's off to you all on the admin team. There's been great improvements on this, and I'm really happy about that. Thank you. Hey, whatever happened to them soap operas that used to be on TV? You know, every once in a while you get a day off, and it was your turn to watch some quality television, and you'd be like halfway through Springer, or worse yet, you'd be watching You Are the Father, and all of a sudden somebody come around the house, oh, my stories are on, my stories are on. And unless you were watching these soap operas from day one in 1957 or whenever they started, you are totally lost to the storyline. Hey, if you're one of the people that misses them soap operas, don't you worry, because today's your lucky day. Boy, do I have a soap opera for you. Welcome to my soap opera. My plot is about the privatization of public education. Let's look at the organizational chart or cast list of my actors. My soap opera is called ABC. Why? Because it's ABC. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Baby, you and me. Conspiracy theory aside, this is a model you typically see in any industry or sales or anything like this, where you have a product manufacturer, you have a regional representative, you have different retailers, and then you have stores and the people that staff those stores. Now, I also need to point out that in charter schools, kids go to charter schools. So if this brand isn't successful either through supplying a curriculum or a model, then after a while this peters out. So in a charter school world, this would be your Office of Education, this would be the district, the superintendent, the flow chart. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's the private world. But there are direct comparables. And another comparable is, yeah, everybody gets paid, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. People are getting salaries, and that's normal. Now the big difference in the public sector is these pay scales are typically determined by a governing board or an oversight process, and that's not so clear in some of the private models of public education. I did a whole series of videos about charter schools. The links are below. It gets into the nitty-gritty and those types of things, so we're not going to rehash that. Just look for the links below if you're interested. Let's get into some specifics here. Let's say this is a nationwide chain of online charter school, virtual academy, seat-based, resource center, whatever it is you want to call it. Again, the success of this brand depends on its ability to deliver educational outcomes to students who choose to go to the school. Again, with any private sector model, you have a parent company who may be nationwide, and then you have regional people who support this subset here. Now, in the case I want to talk about, this person here is representing this product, which is a curriculum and an educational model, but this person is representing this, whether it's as an employee or as a subcontractor or something like that, across a number of different states, including Colorado, go Broncos, Arizona, Rattlers, Michigan, go Spartans, The Ohio State University, and then where I'm at, California. I want to jump down to here first, to this circle with the 1 in it. This is typically the person that wants to start the charter school. There's a reoccurring theme here. In fact, I put this theme out there myself. My child did not get what they needed out of public school. I can relate to that with one of my children. I have a special needs child. And so we start thinking, you know, it should be this way, it should be this way, and I'm going to make a difference. So in this case, I'm going to start a charter school. So once you get this idea and you figure I'm going to make a difference, well, then suddenly it hits you, I have to really be a school. I have to deal with people who may have the same criticisms of my school that I had with the school my kid was going to, that made me start the charter. So once the reality hits us that, okay, I've got to be an administrator, I've got to run finances, I've got to have a curriculum, that curriculum has to be approved, all this myriad of things, what happens is we may look to a support source, which is this person who may represent the curriculum, or I can manage this for you. I can make sure you're in compliance with state agencies and all that type of thing. So again, we have the parent company, a regional rep, and then some management people that come into this area down in here. Now, sometimes where it can get blurry is at this level when this person is representing these people and offering support. And what they do is they typically promote a school. They'll promote the school in Colorado or Arizona or wherever the school is, and they'll make presentations and videos, and they're basically a marketer for the people who wanted to start the school, because we all know the lower enrollment you have, the less funding you have. So the more successful your school is, and the more enrollment you have, there's a certain amount of marketing involved, and that's not odd. Anyone wants to market their product, especially if it's good. But in order for a school to do well and survive, there's a certain level of enrollment and funding that goes with that enrollment for you to be successful. You get below that, you start having some problems. So when a founder of one of these schools signs on to a management system or curriculum, especially when their enrollment is low, you start seeing, well, we'll do this for a percentage. These people will do this for a percentage. And that way, if you have a low number of students, it's not that much. But as you grow, these can become very sizable amounts. So not only do you have the management companies taking a cut out, but whoever is sponsoring your school, like in this is N school district and this is A school district, are sponsoring your school, they're getting an oversight fee as well. So you can find yourself in short order giving a major portion of your percentage to these people in this group here. Moving ahead, as you become more experienced at this, you may find yourself not needing so much support from these people, and in fact, the fees you're paying them may be debilitating your ability to operate and actually put the money into the classrooms. Unfortunately, sometimes these agreements that you've signed, they're bulletproof, and you may find yourself locked in, and it may actually get to the point where your school is not viable financially, regardless of the great things you're doing for students. And you're seeing more and more of that in this model. Now, the plot thickens. I want to talk a little bit about what I'm familiar with, the circumstances. Now, let's go to here. We're in California. There are county offices of education. Let's call this one RS, and let's call this one LA. Now, those offices of education manage or oversee the local school districts, including this one under RS, which we'll call N, and this one under LA, which we'll call A. Now, SC, which is a charter school that fits into this manager and this national product, is asking to be chartered by both N and A, which are in different counties. They're not different schools, and the way to tell that is the person who is the founder of the school and the principal of the school are the exact same people. So it's not like a situation of there's a Meadowlark school in Texas and there's one in California. Obviously, they're not the same school. But if they had the exact same management team here, 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 and here, that would pretty much give you the idea that they might be the same school, or at least the same people are pulling their fees out. So a while ago, this school was running here, this SC school, and this school district said, we're done with this. So almost at the identical time that that was happening, this same school is over here asking this district to sponsor them. Now, what they call this in the charter world is throwing noodles at the wall. So in other words, you put your petition to different school districts, maybe even in different counties, to see if you can get a sponsor. Now, these people may not even be aware that this is happening. So now I'm really going to confuse you, because let's say that school district N says, no, I don't want this. And these people say, the SC school says, well, no, I'm going to talk to your boss, and we're going to make sure that that we have our school. Well, RS says no too. So then what do? We go to SD, a new school district, and then we ask DH school district to sponsor us. Unfortunately, while this is all going on, we've got the same name here, and we already had a public hearing about this charter over here that's in the middle of the approval process, meaning we've had the hearing, now we're going to come back and the board's going to vote. So what we end up doing is we change this SC to LA, even though the hearing wasn't for LA. And there are minutes and agendas and newspaper coverage that say that that's exactly what's happened. Now, let's fast forward. This one up here changes its name to XYZ. Everything else stays the same. XYZ starts having some funding problems because some of these schools in the system, which is, by the way, is nationwide, there's a bazillion other things going on out here, aren't paying the management fees. And so what ends up happening is there's a cash flow problem. Well, there's a capital firm funding this in the background, and you don't know this when you sign up for an investment. They're like, well, we recommend the public education privatization portfolio. So you're kicking in your $10 and you might get $1.20 back, and that's a good investment for you, but this is really what's going on. So the investment firm up here says, no, we want our money. It puts this into receivership. XYZ goes into receivership. Now when this happens, this company has $20 million of operating deficit and $10 million of cash flow problem. So this is $30 million. I want to remind you that the $30 million isn't coming from somebody's, in this area, is not coming from someone's own private funds. This is public education money feeding all this. And so when someone walks away from $30 million, they've walked away from public education funds. And in this mess, you've got hearings, you got Senate hearings, you got legislative hearings, you got audits, you've got lawyers, you got all that. Again, that's coming out of education funds. So while this is all going on, these cash flow problems trickle down through here, and they ultimately end up at these schools. And these schools start having financial problems, which means we don't hire enough teachers, our class sizes grow, there are other things that can happen. So ultimately, the people giving them money, which is coming out of the state oversight and the county oversight agencies, they say, well, you're going to be penalized because you didn't hire enough teachers. And you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And certain percentages of your cash flow are not going to the right thing. So we're not going to 100% fund you. So what happens is the management people appeal to the state and say, well, here's really what happened. We meant well, we were just being really conservative. We didn't hire a bunch of teachers because we weren't getting support from the parent company. And so therefore, we're asking for a waiver so we can get all of our funding for next year. And it's going to be better because this person right here is going to make sure it's better. And these people right here are going to make it better. So how are we going to make it better? Oh, we're going to get a new parent company right here. And we're going to call this one QRS. We've got a new parent company. This mid-level manager who's been having problems with the parent company is now going to oversee all this, and we're going to make it better, and we're going to get our funding, and we're going to show you what's happening. And here comes the Friday episode where you finally almost find out what's going on. Guess what? Remember when this was ABC, and then it was XYZ, and now it's QRS? Well, the same two people that started the first company are still the same two people here. And the same person that is the regional rep is the same person, and all these people, including the two different schools down here, all these people are the same people. So guess what? These people come finally after they've changed the name of their school months ago, after the name has been changed on different paperwork, including the special education people, the state people. In fact, there's people in our own district changing the name without bringing this to the board. Finally, when it comes to someone's attention, they come forward with a material revision that says, oh, we're simply seeking a name change. So I'm sitting here on the board, I'm getting on the internet, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at district records, I'm seeing that some of these people are sharing an empty room at our district office with somebody else who used to be a member of our own staff a couple of years ago, and I'm starting to ask questions, and then the Shasta ruling comes along that says, you know, you can't just open up a charter wherever you want, or a seat-based, or call a seat-based a resource center now, or call a resource center something else. So you're simply not going to come to me with a problem. This is obviously a problem. In the private world, if you did these things, you'd be walking away from bankruptcy. You'd be doing those kinds of things. But again, this person is blaming these people, but yet when you look at the charter petition, all of these people are still in the mix for this. So as a board member, when people come to me with a material revision for a name change, and I'm looking at empty rooms and the same people just changing their name, and we're throwing each other under the bus to the state, but yet these people, it was their fault before, why this didn't happen, and now, oh, they're, but everybody's name is in here, and it even goes as far as to say that the people who founded ABC, that's redline, and now they founded QRS. It's just a mess. Yeah, call me paranoid, call it coincidence, but while this approval was going on and denials and stuff a couple of years ago, on our end, we had the director of education, who's the last eyes on this before it comes to the superintendent and the board, has left the district and is now their director of their own charter. Well, that's okay, except for they're co-renting room 124 at the district office with this same individual who was in place on this. And then when it comes to the report card, the state accountability report card or school accountability report card for this, including this gentleman, well, this gentleman is listed on this accountability report card as having the email address of our superintendent who just left. I'm confused. Is this all just clerical errors and sloppy bookkeeping? I don't know. We're going through a lot of this here when there's 25 kids in the enrollment of the school, so 3 people taking their cut out of the enrollment of 25 kids, and then we take on another school that closed, so now we're up to 125, and we're in the middle of an audit and all this kind of thing. You know, it's just very confusing. There's people that shop charters. They call them serial applicants. They put in a charter application to a school district. The school district has their attorney look at it. Again, the attorney looking at it for that district is costing the kids of that district money. And so they'll get the rejection, the denial that says, no, you can't have it for this reason or this reason. And they'll take those reasons and fold them into their petition to correct it and then shop it off to the next charter. So the Shasta ruling has created a lot of people moving around, chess pieces, name changes, and all this kind of thing. And unfortunately, these are the days of our lives. As a student, I don't want to have to worry about this. I mean, as a board member, I'm focused on the local kids. Remember when you were a student? You were young, you were restless, you only had one life to live. As a board member, you might find me bold and beautiful, but don't kid yourself. I'm always looking towards the guiding light. I know that this has been a long video this month, and thank you for sticking through it, but I really have to give a quick shout out. Back in December 2016, when I first joined the board, the Acton School project was being discussed, and there were concerns that the name Acton School would be lost in the mix of bringing new students over from Meadowlark. So a group of local residents came forward and met with the assistant superintendent at the time, who ultimately became our interim superintendent, to have the plaque put up at Acton School to memorialize the historic significance of Acton School. So my shout out goes to Sandy, Joanne, Carrie, and Charlene. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for caring about Acton School. Okay, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. As usual, I'm Ken Pfalzgraf. I speak for Ken Pfalzgraf. I'm relating my experiences to you for the March 2017 period, month of me being on the school board. I'm not speaking for the entire board. If you want to know what they think about what I'm saying, call them, ask them, send them an email. That's easy to do. And don't forget, like, dislike, comment, and subscribe. That's it. I'll see you in a month.